Hey everyone, my name is Xavier Rubinstein. I go to Durham School of the Arts in Durham, North Carolina. And today I will be presenting my study about the demographic correlates of Meniere's disease among U.S. adults with balance disorders. And all of these findings are from the 2016 National Health Interview Survey. So, what do I hope to accomplish with this presentation? In this presentation, I will go over the background literature, my motivation to explore this topic, the methods used, and finally, the results and what could be interpreted from said results. So, a little bit of context to the study. Meniere's disease is a disease of the inner ear. You can cause a person to become dizzy and have trouble hearing. On a wider scope, though, in the US, balance disorders are common, with 22% reporting vertigo. This therefore diminishes quality of life. As I just stated, Meniere's disease is an extreme example of a balance disorder. Um, as I also said, it's an inner ear disorder. It causes hearing loss. Another more prevalent symptom is something called attacks or Meniere's attacks. These can be categorized by long, elongated periods of nausea, usually caused by an increased amount of dizziness. Um, and these can heavily disrupt quality or flow of life. When looking at other studies, we can see that there aren't that many. Um, those that those studies that do exist are usually clinical or clinic-based studies. Um, but these are usually using a convenience sample. Um, and although clinical samples are important in demographic or in creating a demographic profile, utilizing a nationally representative sample could give a more holistic approach to studying Meniere's disease. And in this case, I used the National Health Interview Survey to represent um, the representative sample. Specifically, I used the 2016 version because it's the only NHIS survey to include a balance supplement or balance questions. It also has dizziness questions and questions relating specifically to Meniere's disease. So on a more personal note of why I chose this study, my dad was diagnosed with Meniere's disease in 2017. It was inherited from his mom or my grandma. And really, I just wanted to educate myself on what Meniere's disease was, um, because I might have Meniere's disease later down in my life. Um, and as I may or may not have said before, attacks are triggered by, they can be triggered by a lot of things. They can be triggered by caffeine, alcohol, too much salt, weather, um, elevation, and yeah, yeah. So what is the problem we are trying to solve in this study? Um, Vestibular diseases like Meniere disease can cause lots of disruptions to everyday life for many people. And there is a need for research to understand if certain people are more likely to have it. And then what is our overall goal, or what is my overall goal of the study? was to understand whether certain groups are more likely to suffer from Meniere's disease than others. So getting into how we obtain this data, we can look at the methodology. Um, so this is a cross-sectional study, and we use the 2016 NHIS interview survey, where participants were interviewed and provide consent. Um, as I said before, I use particularly 2016 because it asks questions relevant to Meniere's disease. Then I obtained a curated data set from IPUMS, which stands for Integrated Public Use Microdata Series. IPUMS houses the NHIS, which is provided by the National Center for Health Statistics. And because uh, these data was de-identified and publicly available, the study was deemed not to involve um, human subject research. Then I utilized the following variables in the study: sex, race, and age, to see if there are disproportionate impacts on certain subpopulations. Then we get to the second part of the analysis, um, which is, or second part of the methodology, which is the analysis. So all the analyses were conducted using IBM SPSS. Um, and first, we look at frequencies, which were run to provide descriptive statistics for each of the variables of interest. Um, so that is just comparing demographic proportions of people who've reported having Meniere's disease. And then after this, I switched to a Pearson's chi-squared test of independence to understand where statistically significant association between Meniere's disease and each of the demographic variables of interest. Um, and As it says here, I use chi-squared test in which we can compare the given numbers of a category to what should be expected, and we can see the difference. I think it's important to note that during the chi-squared test, I use an alpha level of 0.01, or in other words, a confidence level of 99%. Um, so what did we learn? When seeing the results, we can see that majority of people who suffer from Meniere's disease were white, female, and older. You can see in the table on the right that information. The chi-squared results reveal a statistically significant relationship between sex, race, and age, in reporting that Meniere's disease was responsible for experiencing balance issues. Moving on, we can see the implications of the results. So what do the results mean? I found that females, white individuals, and people over 41 are more likely to have Meniere's disease. Um, the age association makes sense because as individuals get older, their disease tolerance goes down and they're more prone to disease. And then their hearing or senses decline as well. Um, when it comes to race and sex, though, less is known. So some past studies have similar findings, but others do not. So more research is needed to understand the relationship between Meniere's disease and sex and race. Thank you. And if there are any questions, there's my email if you would like to reach out at any point.